I stepped into the entryway, and just as I was about to take off my shoes, a chill ran down my spine. Is somebody there? Satoko? Someone had entered right behind me. Like a classmate messing around, standing right up against my back. You're kidding, right? He had to be my imagination. Satoko, did you just put like another trap? Like at my house too? Logically speaking, it was impossible for someone to be able to hide their presence within my personal space, all the way through the door. But there was undoubtedly someone behind me. Hey now, Keiichi. How do you know they're there, even though they're behind you? Because I could hear the sound of flowing hair. There was no other reason I'd hear that sound. That was the presence, because I could hear the sound of them blinking. Keiichi, my baran, there's no way you could hear that. My most base instincts were warning me of the presence. Common sense was telling me that it was just my imagination. It was just my imagination. There was nobody behind me. I began to erase the mental image of an eerie figure standing behind me. But at the same time, I asked myself, if there was nobody, then what was I feeling? As an uncomfortable sensation crawled up my spine. Actually, wouldn't it be better if there was somebody there? If there was nobody there when you turn around, would you be able to accept that? I'd be able to answer all those questions just by looking behind me. But I didn't have enough courage to even do that simple task. Right. I could try speaking to them. The person behind me might answer me. It was a random thought. I didn't care how I went about it, just so long as I didn't have to turn around. If I calmed down and thought about it, I would have known that that wouldn't have solved anything.
どなたですか?
I spoke in such a hoarse, broken voice that I couldn't believe it was my own. I could almost feel them contemplating their response. I felt it. There's no way I should be able to do that. Calm down, Keiichi. It's all in your head. That time, I was certain I heard it. As if hesitantly trying to answer my inquiry. I was certain I could hear the sound of somebody inhaling. I heard it. I heard it. I heard it clearly. It was a girl. A young girl. I didn't know who, but a tiny speck of courage in me, however reckless it was, inspired a primary yet fitting solution to this current predicament. A scream. All the force in my body released from my lungs and through my throat, seizing all thought processes in my head. Suppressing all my thoughts and emotions, I began to collapse like a house of cards, somehow managing to twist my body and look back as I did so. It was definitely there. Right there. Somebody was there. Until the moment I turned around. Until I brought the area behind me into my field of vision. They were definitely there. Falling face up, my eyes traced the remnants of the presence suspended in the empty space. Couldn't be. They were invisible. They looked like they weren't there, but were they actually still standing there? As I screamed, all the emotions I was holding back burst free in a violent wave. However, I was decidedly calm as my emotional dam collapsed. Hey, Jesus Christ. You know, I will say that I gotta congratulate Ryokishi on the way he writes the horror in this. Like the intensity, the way he describes these moments. I wouldn't have thought any less of Ryokishi. He truly is good at doing this stuff. Similar fashion to how he did like some of the moments in Yumineko. He sure knows how to describe these kinds of moments. The turbulent wave of pent-up emotions was skillfully diverted into a torrent of aggression. And that emotion was definitely required to extricate myself from the bizarre situation happening right in front of me. In my state of heightened lucidity, I entrusted my body to the fury. The metal bat held firm in my right hand, as if drawn here and there by the metal bat held firm in my right hand, as if drawn there by a magnet. A mid-level sweep would be the hardest attack to dodge. I remembered reading something like that from a book about swordsmanship or something. I brandished my will to fight. The afterime entered an amalgamation of metal flesh as it swung from left to right, beating against the entryway. The bat slammed into the right hole, the tip rebounding violently. The very calmly, and transferred the force of the rebound into a sweep to the left. The door of the shoe cupboard was split into pieces. Those two swings whiffed through empty space, but they seemed to have a great psychological impact on the enemy. I could feel the panic emanating from that space. Keiichi? Keiichi? But the attack wasn't the only thing required. I extracted the bat from the cupboard it was embedded in, and screamed as I spun my entire body around in a large arc. My scream shook the air, imbuing my ferocious swing with even more destructive power. Crack. Keiichi? I really don't like seeing this. Without mercy or restraint, my violent strike, with certainly fatal force behind it, shattered the top of the cupboard. None of my attacks struck the enemy, but my ferocity had certainly seemed to impact them. Breathing heavily, my entire body soaked in sweat, the invisible enemy, there but not there, dispersed. When I was certain that the enemy had retreated, I locked the front door and latched the chain. No way. Had it only feigned retreat and was not inside my house? Once again, I channeled my aggression and searched the house for the presence. Okay, I'm surely not liking this. Not necessarily that somebody might be in the house, but Keiichi sure is being a little bit too aggressive. He could hurt himself like this, but it was gone. I had succeeded in fending it off. At that moment, the tension drained from my body, and I let out a deep sigh of relief. All the emotions I'd been holding back chaotically merged together and began to flood out. A hodgepodge of fear, accomplishment, and disbelief all mixed together and began to flow through my body. Unable to deal with each individual feeling, I beat them all back with the strongest. Exhaustion. Even in this moment, I remained composed. After checking that all the doors throughout the house were locked, I went up to my room on the second floor and closed the curtains. I straightened my back and tilted my head back a little. After clearing my mind of all my idle thoughts, I managed to calm down even more. What was that at the front door? There was definitely something there. Thinking about it, maybe it was just an apparition I dreamed up in my confused state. But I really didn't think that was the case. Calm down, Keiichi, my brother. Compose yourself. But no matter how calmly I thought about it, what just happened wasn't a figment of my imagination. It was obviously a supernatural phenomenon. And without a doubt, something was behind me. It wasn't some sort of illusion I saw amidst my confusion and disorientation. Proof? I had just one piece. When I asked, "Who is it?" they yelled as if they were about to answer. That sound had clearly reached my ears. The situation I was in right now was still unclear. Either I'd been possessed by this supernatural phenomenon known as Oyashiro-sama's curse, or this was a ruse by the villagers who believed in it and were imitating it. Either way, their motives were unclear. The roundabout way it had been done was also still a mystery. If it was perpetrated by humans, that would mean admitting that it was Rena and the rest of them doing it. But it would be solvable. Oishi-san and the rest of the police would surely arrest my enemy. But if it was a manifestation of Oyashiro-sama's curse, I wondered what would happen. Oishi-san very clearly declared that curses didn't exist. At that time, those words were pretty dependable. But as things were now, with the rising possibility that the perpetrators were not human, he suddenly seemed unreliable. If I told Oishi-san this was the work of Oyashiro-sama's curse, what would happen? I couldn't imagine his reaction. But it would go without question that a void would expand rapidly between myself and Oishi-san. With me having so few allies to begin with, and not being able to confidently declare whether or not this was a curse, there was no merit to doing that. I better keep the facts of what just happened at the doorway to myself. It would be better if I didn't add what happened here to the memo behind the clock. There was still the ever so slight possibility that I was actually confused when I thought I was composed, and I was just going berserk in the entryway. How wonderful would that be if that was really what happened? I'll be able to refute Oyashiro-sama's curse. But if I denied Oyashiro-sama's curse, then that would mean admitting that Rena and the rest were the perpetrators. If I said that Rena and the rest weren't the perpetrators, then that would mean believing in Oyashiro-sama's curse. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, I guess. By denying both those, I will be admitting that I myself was losing it. And the three options from which I couldn't choose became a trilemma of sorts. They mixed together and formed a whirlpool in my mind, making my head spin. Calm down, Keiichi, come on. Don't lose yourself. Like, you're really worrying me here, like lately. Once again, I straightened myself and leaned my head back slightly to cool myself down. I guess so. Here, Keiichi did show signs of this as well throughout the day, but yeah, I guess all this just confirms that Keiichi sure is not a sound mind to, go through this, like, carefully. He is surely losing it at this point. What should be done? What should be done? Calm down, Keiichi. Accept what has actually happened as reality. Stop thinking of anything more than that. But I couldn't help but think of it. How wonderful it would be if it turned out that I was delirious and everything up until now was a figment of my imagination. Oyashiro-sama's curse wouldn't exist, and I would still be best as buddies with Rena and the rest. I would have to be crazy. That was the first time in my life I'd ever wished for such a thing. But at the same time, if the phone rang noisily downstairs, if such a thing happens, then, well, Rena and the rest sure are worried as fuck about you, Keiichi. Generally, there were no calls for me, so I never really answered the phone much. But since my parents weren't here, I had no choice. I squirmed off the bed and went downstairs. Alright, well, let's see, who is it?
もしもし、前原です。
ケイチ、お母さんだけど。
Hi, Mom. I internally had a bad feeling about this. That's because I thought she was going to ask me to go out and buy some things. So I took the initiative.
何？別に俺、夕食はインスタントでもいいよ。まだいっぱいあったでしょ。
The other day, we went out as a family and bought a whole case of cup noodles. I wanted to get a bunch of different kinds, actually, but they refused since the individual packs were expensive. So instead, I got a whole case of the mega-sized pork bone and ginger-flavored ones I liked. But my parents don't like strong flavors and didn't touch any of them. So the cupboards were still full of them.
だからさ、買い物に行く必要はないんじゃないの？
ケイチ、買い物のお願いじゃないの。
Being attentive and taking the initiative and all that is good, but this is borderline paranoid right over here.
お父さんとお母さんね、お仕事の関係で急遽東京に行かなくちゃならなくなったの。
To Tokyo?
今から？
This was really abrupt. Phew. Yeah, I guess so. Now Keiichi is all alone. To Tokyo?
もう着いちゃってるの。お昼には出発してたからね。
It's quite a distance to Tokyo from Hinamizawa. Gunning at full speed down the hallway would still take 6 hours. Dad has a license. Since he doesn't like the highway, they likely took the train. It would have taken longer.
圭一もお父さんとお母さんの話を聞いてたからわかるかもしれないけど、お父さんのお仕事の契約がね、今ちょっとうまくいってないの。
Now that you mention it, I did remember that they talked all that time about how his job prospects weren't looking so good.
お父さんはそういうのに繊細な人だから、このままだとお仕事にも影響が出ちゃうの。
Part of my father's particular fragile artistic personality. His emotions change as easily as the full sky. He could also just say he couldn't take criticism.
でも、そんなの電話でやり取りすればいいじゃないか。
圭一、お父さんのお仕事なんだから、もうちょっと応援してあげて。ね。
Yes, Mom.
とにかく電話よりも直接会って話した方が早いの。誤解もないし。
As their son, there was nothing more I could say once they started talking about work.
だから帰るのは明日の晩になっちゃうの。圭一、一人で大丈夫よね。
別に死にゃしないよ。
圭一、死んじゃうなんて軽々しく言っちゃダメよ。心配事があったら相談してね。母さん、きっと相談に乗れると思うから。
Thank you, Mom. Yesterday I did bring up if I died rather abruptly, so I suppose they were a little worried. Indubitably. But really, I was more depressed by the fact that nothing would be solved by telling them. But I didn't plan on dying. At least not while I still knew nothing. I would never allow it.
死なないよ。俺は。あがいてでも生き延びる。
そう。じゃあね。明日の朝、ちゃんと起きるのよ。
Alright, well. Love you, Mom. Domani.
朝ごはんは食べてね。お風呂と歯磨きも忘れないのよ。
へいへい。そんじゃ。
And the call ended like that. Sometimes my parents were off to Tokyo for business meetings, but Tokyo was far away. They normally did things by phone. The times they did go were normally planned out in advance. It never happened this suddenly. I can say that those circumstances didn't feel strange, or rather, unnatural. Anyway, I really needed to recognize the reality of this situation. And that tonight, I was the only one in the house. That when my parents came back from work, I'd be gone. Missing. Vanished. Looking back on the series of events of the previous 5 years involving Oyashiro-sama's curse, it wouldn't seem that strange at all. Come to think of it, it was getting pretty late. I think it was good that the only light on in the whole house was from my room on the 2nd floor. It was the same as broadcasting to the Remi that my parents were gone, and this was their chance. First, I ran to the living room, flicked on the lights, and turned the TV on to a reassuring volume. Next was the study. I suddenly turned on lights and some music. With this, from the outside it would look like my parents were here. Once again, I went through the house, checking to see if there was anything left unlocked. When I saw the veranda and the laundry still hanging out there, I went pale. That would have made it too obvious. I needed to take it down. I snatched down the laundry haphazardly and erased all traces that my brother wasn't there. It should be fine now. Ah! The garage! They hadn't gone all the way to Tokyo by car, but they had gone up to Okinomiya Station. The garage was empty, wide open, and in plain sight. This was not good. I panicked and rushed out to the back to close the normally open garage door. It should be fine now. Ah! I needed to get the paper! Mom always got the paper. Since they left in the afternoon, the evening paper was still out there. Oh god. What about the garden? Keiichi. You have to water the flowers. My premonition was correct. I pulled out everything from the mailbox and dropped it in the entryway. With this, for sure this time, it should be fine. Come to think of it, leaving the cupboard busted like that for my little freakout was kind of bad. I'll just say I tripped and fell, and the bat I was holding smashed into it. That hard? Even so, just leaving it in its current state wasn't good. I should clean it up a little before Mom got back and scolded me. Oh, I remembered that there was a broom and dustpan in the closet. As I was going to get them, the phone rang once again.
もしもし、前原です。
Okay, well, who is it this time?
あら、圭一くん、
Huh?
お母様はいらっしゃいますかしら。
今ちょっといないんですけど。
I don't recognize this voice. Or, wait, hold on. Are you that same woman that we've met early in the morning? You idiot, Keiichi Maibara. Don't reveal that your parents are gone. You can follow up still. Calm down and take care of it. They went shopping for a little bit. They'll come back a little bit later.
すぐに戻ると思います。
That wasn't a good response either. Yeah, it is a short window. Now they might say they'll call again. Or to tell her to call them when she comes back.
なら結構です。大した話でもありませんから。
Can you tell us what this is all about? We can tell this to Mom.
では失礼しますわね。
Goddammit. The scenario I feared didn't play out, eliciting a sigh of relief. That call was fortunate in more ways than one. I'd have to deal with any telephone calls coming in from my parents tonight. I was somehow able to deal with the phone call just now, but I couldn't continue to rely on such poor improvisation. I needed to make up a good story to explain that my parents were home, but couldn't answer the phone at the moment. They were making tempura and couldn't step away right now. That wasn't good enough. They were sick and went to bed because they weren't feeling well. Was that going to be safe enough? Maybe, they were doing a little bow chicka bow wow, like in their room. I mean, that's a good excuse. I was thinking about it on the way back to my room when the phone rang once again. It was like they were calling because they knew I was going to lie. I didn't want to pick up, but I knew I had to. They'd suspect my parents weren't here. I should have just taken the phone off the hook under the pretense that I didn't realize that it was. But since the phone rang, I had to pick it up. I prepared myself and lifted up a receiver.
もしもし。
Moshi. Yeah, sorry, Keiichi's parents are a little bit busy right now. They're having sex. I stopped announcing this was the Maibara residence. I had no reason to be kind to someone I didn't know the identity of. But unlike my uncouth voice, the person on the other side sounded goofy and lighthearted. Oh, Oichi.
大石さんですか。
前原さんですか。こんばんは。お元気そうで何よりです。
ちょっと待ってくださいね。
I grabbed the portable handset and rushed up to my room with it. It was the same no matter where I was since there was no one else home. But I wanted to be in a spot that just felt a bit safer when speaking on the phone with Oishi-san. Which, by the way, same thing happened last time. Keiichi took the portable handset, the portable phone with him to his room. Which, at first glance, when you think about it, it's kind of crazy for 1983 to have something portable like that. Kinda.
お待たせしました。
There's like a lot of things in life that you think, wait, they had that in 1980s? It kind of makes you feel crazy, doesn't it? To think that there are stuff that actually existed before that. You think of 80s and the 90s as ancient.
いかがですか、その後お変わりは。
Well, change, maybe not really, but Keiichi sure went through a lot of stuff. Thanks, Oishi. Since then, when was that exactly? There was something about the braids and the way he talked that rubbed me the wrong way. The last time I spoke with Oishi-san was 2 days ago. The day I stayed home from school. I met Oishi-san on the way back from the hospital. And we headed into town for lunch and had a talk. And then after that, Ren and Mion came to check up on me. Whenever I spoke with Oishi-san, they always knew about it. He was like that since the first time I met him. Today's phone call may well be found out by them as well.
もしもし、聞こえてますか、前原さん。
あ、すみません。なんて言いました？
その後、何か変わったことはありませんかとお尋ねしたんです。お返事がないんで焦りましたよ。
特には。
The words stopped in my throat. There was a ton of stuff that happened. All of it baffling. What should I talk about? I didn't understand any of it, but I should try asking. If I didn't ask now, I may never have another chance. And this night when my parents were home, I had no guarantees I would make it through the night safely after all.
大石さん、やっぱり俺、命を狙われているみたいです。
本当ですか？
偶然の可能性もあるんですが、先日俺が病気で休んだ日、夕方にあの二人がお見舞いに来たんです。
あの二人？
レナとミオンです。そしてそこで大石さんと一緒に昼飯を食ったことを正されました。
それで
お見舞いってことでおはぎを置いていったんですが、その中に針が入ってたんです。偶然飲み込まずに済みましたが、これってやっぱり脅迫でしょうか？
その針は？
よく見かけるような普通の裁縫針のようでした。糸を通す穴が開いていて。
違いますよ、前原さん。針です。証拠になります。脅迫だと立証できるかもしれません。
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Like, where is the sewing needle?
その針はありますか？
That's right. That's it. I dropped the receiver and rushed downstairs. When I tossed the mochi, I had overlooked it out of terror. But that needle was a valuable piece of evidence. Let's see. I threw the mochi and the needle at the wall together. It was there, and it would be on the living room wall. But my prudent mother had cleaned that living room wall. There was not a trace of mochi left on it. Could it be that it dropped in the gap between the wall and the carpet? I frantically searched by running my palm through the carpet, but nothing turned up. I tried moving around the sofa and desks, pulling up the carpet and flapping it around. But I couldn't find the needle. Did my mom clean up everything without noticing it? It was just 2 days ago. I didn't know what day they collected the unburnable trash, but it may still be in the trash bin in the kitchen. Alright, well, let's see. That or your mom picked up the needle and put it, assuming that it was a needle that they had. I rushed into the kitchen, opened up the lid of the pail, and poured out the contents. But even at a glance, I could tell that it would be incredibly difficult to find the needle in this pile of trash. I was looking for a needle in a trash stack. I know. I tried running my hand through it. It was a bit gross, but I was looking for a needle. If I felt a small prick, I'd be able to find it. It was a pretty tactless method, but it was the quickest. I held my breath and started striking the pile of trash with my hand. Filth flew about. There was nothing more disgusting than this, but it was not the time to be concerned about such details. I continued on for a while, but nothing turned up. I wanted to search more thoroughly, but I was still on the phone. I shouldn't keep Oishi-san waiting for too long. Later, when Mom got back, I'd have to ask her if there was a needle. I hastily began scribbling on the notepad affixed to the refrigerator with a magnet. Was there a needle? I scrawled the words with a red pen. I then dashed back up the stairs, where I had been keeping Oi-san waiting for far too long.
もしもし、どうでしたか？
見つかりません。あの時はつい気が動転していて。
そうですか。見つかればでいいんです。保管しておいてくださいね。
That's right. Danilo wasn't the only incident. I had to tell him about this morning with a hit and run.
あと大石さん、それだけじゃないんです。実は今朝。
That van was definitely aiming for me. I could say that without question due to the circumstances at the time.
その車のナンバープレートは見ましたか？
Nope.
こちらでも探してみます。
Damn. At the time, I just flipped out yelling at him, but I didn't look at the plate. What feathers on my part with Danilo and the plate number. I was so focused just protecting myself that I let some of the most important details slip out of my grasp. I punched my pillow, annoyed at how worthless I was.
すみません。白いワゴン車ってこと以外はわかりません。
仕方ないことですよ、前原さん。惹かれかければ気も動転します。
やっぱりこれだって偶然じゃないですよね。
Oishi-san started to hem and haw over there on the other hand. I could imagine him folding his arms.
あと、レナの様子もやっぱり怪しいです。
それはどんな感じですか？
When Rena sent on the way home today, asking why I was so much like Satoshi-kun. Now I could say it with confidence that Rena knew what happened to Satoshi. She knew that there was more to it than him just simply disappearing.
レナは知っています。去年の鬼隠しにあったサトシのことを何か知っています。
それは具体的にどういうことですか？
レナが言うには、俺はサトシとそっくりらしいんです。このまま行くと、俺もサトシと同じ運命をたどると、そんな感じのことを言うんです。
運命ですか？具体的にどんな運命をたどるか言及しましたか？
天候と。
天候？
レナは、サトシは転校したって言ってるんです。で、俺もこのままだと転校しちゃうぞって。
Oishi-san let out a stern sigh and then grumbled loudly.
前原さん、それはおそらく何かの脅迫、もしくは警告ですね。
俺もそう思ってます。
At that point, I started to think, would it be prudent to sum up everything that had happened till now as the machinations of some human perpetrator? Other than the theory of it being Rena and the others, I was left with Oyashiro-sama's curse actually existing as the only explanation. Of course, I couldn't tell that to Oishi-san, except Rena's strange behavior could be proof of either scenarios. Either it was Oyashiro-sama's curse being real, or everything being part of a conspiracy committed by all the villagers. Rena was involved. Rena had to know something. Rena was suspicious. What exactly was Rena? I couldn't help but think she was somehow involved with a prior string of mysterious deaths. I seem to recall that Oishi-san had admitted that he had dug into Rena's past a little. He was probably just downplaying it when he said a little. Meaning he had actually dug pretty deep, most likely. I wanted to hear about Rena. I wanted to know what happened at her previous school, among other things that were still unknown to me. If Rena was somebody I should suspect. No, not that. I wanted to know the truth. Tonight, I was alone in this huge house. Even though I said I couldn't count on them, I had lost the security I felt I had just by my parents being around. It wasn't like this house was some sort of fortress or castle. If a malicious person decided to use brute force, they'd easily gain entry. There were no other residents close to the Maebara residence. No one would be able to hear anything, no matter how loud it was. I never felt as much resentment towards my father's artistic temperament, and the fact that he had this house built in such a remote location as I did right now. Oh, I wonder if I would still be here by tomorrow morning. So I had to ask, right now, because I had no idea when the next chance would come.
大石さん、聞きたいことがあるんです。
Somebody's ringing the door right now.
隠さないでくださいね。
ええ、何でも聞いてください。
Even though he was so far away on the other end of the line, and this was the most reliable he had ever felt, I wanted to ask about Rena, about what happened at our previous school.
実は、レナの。
I noticed a sound that had been going on for a while now. Since I was so focused on the call, I hadn't paid attention to it at first. But I finally realized it was a doorbell. The time was 7 o'clock. It was past the time the postman would be making the delivery, and past any sensible time for a neighbor to be visiting. I considered just acting like nobody was home, but that wouldn't be good. That would ruin all the work I put in making it look like my parents were home. I need to answer the door. Alright, well, let's see. Like, I guess for Keiichi, it would be best if it was that villager from before that called. It was something that had to do with the parents, but if it's Rena or the other girls, Keiichi is gonna get spooked.
もしもし、前原さん？
すみません。誰か来たみたいですので、ちょっと玄関に行ってきます。
お客さんですか。すみません、すみません。今夜のお電話はこれくらいにしましょうか。
Let's stay on the phone for right now. We're gonna leave the phone hanging like right here, just in case. That would be a problem.
いえ、すぐ戻りますから。
Yeah, there you go.
電話はこのままでいいですか？
はいはい、構いませんよ。
I dropped the handset on my bed and dashed down the door. I need to make a good excuse to get them to leave. I had a hunch it was the lady who called right before Ishi-san did. In which case, he'd be one of the neighbors who's friends with my mom. Alright, well, let's see. I'll just say mom isn't feeling well and went to bed early. And that would be the easiest option. That or the boingy boingy option. It'd be hard for her to ask me to wake up my mom up if she's not feeling well. The bell continued to ring at irregular intervals. If someone didn't answer after you rang the bell so much, you'd normally give up and go home, wouldn't you? Without removing the chain, I opened the door slightly and peered out at the visitor. Alright, well, who is it? A chill ran down my spine. I knew it. Somewhere deep inside, I had prepared for this moment. I had tried to escape by imagining it was the easiest person to deal with. One of my mom's friends. Hello?
Rena.
There shouldn't be any reason for Rena to come over at this hour. The timing also made me feel uneasy, because it was just as I was about to ask Oishi-san about Rena. I wish I could have chalked this up to mere coincidence, but those unsettling words from Mion several days ago echoed back to me.
さーてね、おじさんにわからないことはないからね。
レナ一人。
It's just that Mion wasn't with her, but that didn't change the situation at all.
何しに来たんだよ。
ねえ、ケイチ君、ちゃんとドアを開けてお話ししたいな。レナは玄関に入っちゃダメなのかな
It was true that speaking through a chained door wasn't the right way to talk to a classmate. But
うち、夜は必ずチェーンかけてるんだよ。気にすんなよ。
なら、仕方ないかな。
alright, well, what is it, Rena? Rena looked at the ground sadly, but she kept smiling at least, and her effort to keep that smile up was quite pitiful. Even though she was tugging at my heartstrings, I didn't lower my guard. As long as I stayed like this, even if it made my heart ache, my life wasn't in danger. What I really feared, more than the possibility that hoodlums would assault me if I removed the chain, was trusting Rena enough to remove the chain, and having my friendship betrayed. As long as the chain wasn't unlatched, even if it made a heartache, I wouldn't have to deal with being betrayed by Rena. Quite a poetic moment for a romance story here. Like, not trusting Rena, therefore having this door with a chain, like in between them. Since it didn't seem like I had removed the chain from her silent urging. She appeared to give up on trying to get into the entrance. She appeared to give up on trying to get into the entranceway.
あのさ、ケイチ君、ご飯食べた？
No, I haven't eaten. Since my mom wasn't there, dinner wouldn't be ready no matter how long I waited. I laid down when I got home. I was woken up by the phone, and I didn't have a chance to eat since I used up all that time talking. I was going to have cup noodles, in any case. I could just eat one whenever I wanted to.
いや、まだだよ。それがどうしたよ。
じゃあよかった。これ見て。お惣菜とか持ってきてあげたの。
Rena held out a stack of boxes wrapped in a cloth.
お台所とか貸してくれれば、お味噌汁も温めてあげられるよ。
いいよ、そこまでしてくれなくても。
でも、お豆腐もお野菜もたっぷりなの。ケイチ君、そういうの嫌いかな。
There's no way I won't like that. I love miso soup with lots of ingredients. White radish, carrots, burdock root, and potatoes, dense and fibrous root vegetables. Yeah, that miso soup looks incredible.
ご飯も持ってきてあげたから、レンジで温めればすぐ食べられるし。
You sweet little thing. Without a doubt, rice needs miso soup. Stuffing rice down your gullet, sipping miso soup in between ravenous bites. Yeah, how wonderful it is to be born Japanese.
それからね、またお漬物を作ってきたんだよ。今度は山菜のお漬物なの。
Before I moved here to Hinamizawa, I scoffed at the mountain vegetables called sansai. But I was captivated by their charm the first time I tried them. Such a deep yet light flavor. Those so-called supermarket vegetables taste rough and overpowering in comparison. If you had to describe them, then they were the vegetables for the initiated. To become an expert such as myself, you first had to partake of sansai. It was common knowledge around here that the Ryugu family's traditional pickles were wonderfully delicious. Ooh. No matter what kind of pickles they were. They go so well with that fluffy white rice.
それからね。
But wait, there's more! So delicious. It just seems so delicious. I was missing, like, this little moment over here. Like, with all this Keiichi being paranoid as fuck, like, we wouldn't have, like, thoughts like this that often these few days. Like, talking about food and such with Rena. Farewell to my unhealthy self who said he'd make do with cup noodles. Rena appeared to be in good spirits, and she was offering such a delicious-sounding dinner. The stress evaporated from my gut, and hunger reared its voracious head. At the same time, my wariness of Rena suddenly dwindled. Rena did say that she was alone. It shouldn't be a problem letting her inside. Though, the possibility that it was laced with poison still hadn't been ruled out. At the moment, a cold chill ran down my spine once again. Uh-oh. A cold chill again. I couldn't understand why such a sensation had occurred just then. But the voice inside me was sounding the alarm. This happy Rena speaking of this charming dinner was dependent on one premise. And that premise was that tonight, dinner had been made at my house. Meaning he was under the assumption that my mom, who should be making it, wasn't here. At any normal household, 7 o'clock would be around the middle of dinner time, So maybe we're going with the idea that Mom talked to Rena about Keiichi being alone at night. So maybe Mom wanted to make a surprise and have Rena come in and make the dinner. If my mom were here, we'd be eating dinner around this time as well. The fact that she brought over all the makings of a meal at this time was inherently strange. Unless she knew. Rena, did she know that my parents were home? But there was also the chance that this was a bluff. I had turned on lights and a bunch of other stuff to make it seem like my parents were here. And there was a chance that Rena wasn't sure if my parents were home. But I had to wonder. The laundry, the garage, the evening paper. There were plenty of signs of them being hastily tidied up. It was hard to say that Rena didn't have a chance to determine if my parents were here or not. But there was no reason for me to confess that right now. I should try holding on to that fact as long as I could. First of all, the chain was still latched. As long as I didn't take it off, Rena wouldn't be able to do anything to me.
ありがたいんだけどさ、もう少しで夕飯ができるみたいなんだよ。
そうなの？そうなの？
せっかくで申し訳ないんだけどさ、
Unable to think of a good way to refuse, my words trailed off weakly.
でもちょっとはおかずになると思うな。
悪いけど間に合ってるよ。うちのお袋ってさ、結構おかずをいっぱい作るんだよ。だから。
おかずあるの？
With a smile that bordered on cringe, I dodged her questions apologetically. But the feeling I tried to ignore began creeping up my back again. Okay, a little off topic over here, but you know, Higurashi was written like a long time ago. Probably at the beginning of the 2000s. Definitely before the Mineko for sure. Like, I don't know which year exactly, but the point is, it is very early on. It was like a long time ago. The word cringe has definitely been ruined by media. Whereas at the time of writing this, it was basically a normal word. I spoke as if my mom was setting down dinner right now. But it didn't mesh well with what Rena was saying. Rena was talking as if she was aware of some obvious fact. And that, I was aware of it as well.
ケイチ君もおかずとか作れるんだね。何を作ったのかな？
いや、別に俺が。
Rena had assumed out of nowhere that I had made the dishes. No, not so much that I made them, but rather that my mom hadn't.
本当に作ったの？おかず。ケイチ君が？
だから、俺が作ったんじゃないよ。お袋が作った。いや、作ってるんだよ。今。だからさ、悪いけど、レナの持ってきてくれたのは食べられないんだよ。
Rena fell silent at the moment. At that moment, I felt that the light had suddenly disappeared from her eyes.
ケイチ君のお夕飯、当ててみようか？
なんだっていいじゃないか。
ね。
The conversation might appear natural at first glance, but Rena was firmly in control. I feel like I was being interrogated, and it feels like that transition into the weird Rena, for sure, the way she talks right now.
そのお夕飯、お湯だけで作れるんじゃないかな。
おい、侮るなよ。うちのお袋のスペシャルなディナーを見くびるなってんだ。そりゃもう満願全席状態ですごいのなんの。
I tried my best to put on a strong front, but I couldn't grit my teeth quite right. So instead, I looked like someone who was borderline hysterical. Rena showed no reaction whatsoever, even to that silliness.
ケイチ君、本当にお母さんご飯作ってってくれたの？
いや、だからくれたんじゃなくて今作ってるんだよ。もうすぐ晩飯に。
Rena had taken that assertion of mine, that my mother was home and making dinner right now, and was completely ignoring it. I could tell that the more I panicked, the colder Rena became.
ねえ、ケイチ君。
And at that moment, an uncomfortable chill crept in from the gap in the doorway.
お母さん、お家にいるのかな？かな？
I couldn't keep up this charade anymore. Rena, she knew full well that my parents were home. But I'd come too far to admit that now. Anyway, my parents were here and we'd be having dinner soon. That was the situation I concocted. So I answered. I told her she was here.
いるよ。もちろん。
I could feel the humidity drying out from the surrounding area. Rena's eyes were becoming even more frigid, piercing me with their gelid glare.
どうして？
何のことかな？
I tried acting casual, but that facade was torn off me the instant I looked into Rena's eyes. That look informed me of Rena's response faster than she could open her mouth.
どうしてさっきから嘘をつくのかな？かな？
I wondered that too.
嘘なんか。
嘘だよね。
嘘なんかじゃ。
嘘だよ。
No. Rena's outburst sent a jolt surging through my body. Jesus. You know, if you want soda that much, I can give you some soda right over here. Here, look, you can take a sip. Rena and I were still... Okay. Rena and I were still separated by what a few inches, that's slightly ajar, but still a chained door could afford. But despite that, I was still being cornered. My house, which I'd considered a safe haven until now, had become more like a dark alleyway where no one could save me.
ケイチ君のお夕飯当てるよ。ね。
Alright, well, let's see if you can guess Keiichi's dinner correctly. I'm curious. And you know that Rena had already known that my parents would not be here tonight. But it was still so strange that it had come to this. Even if she somehow knew that my parents were home, there was no way she should be able to guess what I'd be eating tonight. But Rena said she'd guess. How could she guess it? How could she know it was instant?
カップラーメン当たりでしょ？
That I was going to eat? Wait. The cooking repertoire of a man who can't do housework is probably nothing but cup noodles after all. Looking at this statistically, it was the most probable answer. Well, not even like some sandwiches? That didn't mean she was guessing.
ラーメンだけじゃきっとお腹すくと思うな。ご飯とかも一緒の方がきっと腹持ちいいと思うよ。
Calm down, Keiichi, my brother. This was just coincidence. And I was just reading certain tales of mine. So the fact that she was inferring what I was thinking alarmed me. But it wasn't as if she was actually reading my mind. Yeah, I mean, not to mention that she knows you after like a month or so. She could guess much easier that way. If it was being read, then she was a demon. No, not a demon. Things like that. They couldn't possibly exist.
好きなの？
ラーメンがかよ。
豚骨生姜味。
Tonkotsu? Rena indicated the point my answer was addressing was wrong. Her rebuttal was so short that I momentarily didn't understand the words Rena had spoken.
ごめん、レナ。今、なんて？
何が？
今さ、何が好きって聞いたんだよ。
It wasn't long before I regretted how carelessly I pushed forward with that question. It was such a simple answer. That was why I wasn't able to comprehend it.
豚骨生姜味。
Oh. I wondered how I appeared in the moments my mind went completely blank, until the moment I was able to recover. As my field of view began to distort, slowly swirling in a counterclockwise direction, I lost all sense of balance. Yeah, I mean, she's talking about all that pork bone and she's talking about all that food that Keiichi wanted. But there's quite a lot of left over, because his parents surely don't eat that stuff.
なんでそこまでわかるんだよ。
I didn't even deny it. That was the type of frenzied state I was in. Well, again, if you want to calm yourself a little bit, again, maybe your parents talked to Rena about the leftover food, like at some point in the past. Doesn't necessarily have to be something recent. How could Rena know even this? Not even caring as I smashed my head against the door, I fixated my gaze on Rena. But she didn't even flinch when she saw me do that.
確かに買った。まとめて買った。俺が箱買いした。それがどうしてわかるんだ。
なんでかな。不思議だね。だね。
How could you dodge the question at a time like this? The chin and the door suddenly were no longer protecting me.
どうしてわかる？なぜ知ってる？答えろ！
買ったのはセブンスマート。だよね。
A shiver ran up my spine. I tried covering it with an angry facade.
だから、なんでわかるんだよ！
ケイイチくんの後ろ、ずっとくっついてたから。
Oh, really now?
何を言ってんだよ。
I couldn't understand why she was saying she'd been following me all this time.
だから、レナがケイイチくんの後ろにずっとくっついてたの。
Like that night. That night I was absorbed in my phone conversation with Oishi-san. I didn't even sense her being there, standing behind the door, behind me, standing there, just like that.
ケイイチくんがいろんなラーメン選んでるとこ、後ろからずっと見てたの。いろんな種類を選んでたんだよね。それでお母さんに怒られたの。高いラーメンばっかり選ぶから一種類にしなさいって。それでケイイチくん大好きな大きいカップの豚骨生姜味を選んだんだよね。レナも好きだよ、豚骨ラーメン。でも大きいカップは全部食べきれないけどね。
My brain was paralyzed, dulling my senses. It might have been a defense mechanism, to diminish the fear I was feeling to not traumatizing levels. With the fear being diminished, the fog enveloping my mind was cleared away. Then, I could understand what Elena was saying and started to put meaning behind her words. Even so, my fear hadn't subsided completely. It was like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, eyes closed so I didn't have to look down. It didn't actually solve any of the basic problems. I slowly took a step backwards, and as I withdrew, Rena advanced.
だからケイイチくん、ここを開けて。レナと一緒にご飯食べよう。
Nah, not right now.
きっと美味しいから。ね。
Rena's pale, slender fingers squirmed through the crack in the door one at a time, as if they had a mind of their own, rattling the chain. If she hadn't lashed the chain from the door, the feeling of terror would have just exploded within me. But Rena didn't do that. She was simply imploring me to remove the chain. I tried my hardest to light the fuse to the powder keg in my heart, trying again and again. But it doesn't light. It doesn't light.
開けて。 圭一くん。
No?
帰ってくれ。頼むから。帰ってくれ。
どうしてそんな意地悪を言うのかな。
帰ってくれ。帰れよ。帰れ。
The powder keg inside me finally went off. No smoldering. It just exploded. I tackled the door. The force through the door had knocked Rena momentarily off balance. I couldn't hesitate here. I grabbed onto the doorknob with both hands, planted my feet firmly, and pulled with all my might. Alright. I guess we're into the next phase right over here. Lock the door and just think this through. Or I don't know how much Keiichi can think in this state, but I guess we shall see. With that slamming sound I so desired didn't happen. I could feel a tiny, disturbing bit of resistance keeping the door from closing. And the source of that was Rena's fingers. What? Each of those fingers wriggling, squirming around like the tendrils of a carnivorous plant through the crack in the doorway. Oh, they're still in the doorway.
痛いよ、圭一くん。痛い。
It wasn't a harsh shriek, but more of a yelp she was trying to keep back. Okay, just open the door quickly, and then just release it, and then close it back. I kept on pulling on the door with all my might. I didn't even realize that if I didn't loosen my pull on the door at least momentarily, Rena wouldn't be able to pull her fingers out, and that was why the door wasn't closing.
本当に痛いの、圭一くん。悪ふざけが過ぎたなら謝るよ。
I didn't care one bit for her apology. No matter how much she apologized, it didn't change any of what she had done up until now. No, Keiichi? Keiichi, you better release her right now. It didn't change anything.
痛いの。痛いの。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。
Rena couldn't leave even if she wanted to because I trapped her fingers. Rena's white fingers had become deep red and were no longer even squirming. Keiichi?
ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。
Rena's apologies were occasionally twisted with pain. But like a broken record, she was intent on repeating it over and over. Yeah. I guess so. We're going for a circle right over here. With one of the things that we've witnessed like right at the beginning of this adventure. With the one time when no matter how many times someone apologizes, the other person is probably not gonna forgive them, or something like that. It is something like this. It is when Keiichi is just losing it. Go away. Go away. Go away. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it! I pulled on the door even harder. Finally, Rena's fingers were somehow able to slip out from their imprisonment in the doorway. Okay, good. The moment that happened, the door closed soundly, and I could hear the foot of Rena falling on her butt on the other side. I unlocked the door immediately. He made a loud clunk, voicing my rejection to Rena.
ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。圭一くん、ごめんなさい。ここを開けて。圭一くん。
Rena leaned against the door, apologizing profusely at nothing else. After confirming that I was sufficiently sealed off from her, I trudged away from the entryway. On the other side, I could still hear Rena echoing her apology. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Those pitiful words. They will be forever seeking my forgiveness. I didn't feel bad about this at all. And that wasn't out of any sort of malice. I just felt a sort of hazy sense of relief that I was able to escape from Rena. before, Miona had threatened me at this doorway, saying there was nothing she didn't know. And just now, at the same place, Rena told me the same thing. My feeble attempts to disguise the fact that my parents were home and served no purpose from the start. Should I just pretend to be out and not even open the door? My meager plans hadn't helped at all. Hinamizawa, it was impossible to outwit them. Even though I was on the other side of the door, I wanted to get as far away from Rena as possible. 1 step, 2 steps. With each one, her sniveling apologies became more distant. I sprinted up the stairs and dove into my room. As you would expect, I was finally no longer able to hear Rena repeating her endless apology. Diving into my bed, I was startled by the hard lump I felt. There was something in my bed? Eh? It was the receiver. Oh, thank God. I thought that somebody else was in the bed. And I finally remembered. I was in the middle of a call with Oishi-san. Looking at the clock, apparently not much time had passed since I went downstairs. Could it be that my clock had run out of batteries? I had talked with Rena for so long. How did almost no time pass? But the hand on the clock was ticking forward 1 second every second as usual. As I put the still warm receiver to my ear, time which felt frozen began moving once again.
もしもし、大石さん、お待たせしてすみませんでした。
いえいえ、大してお待ちしていませんよ。
It became apparent that the amount of time that had passed between myself and Oishi-san was different. Over the phone, I could hear an energetic voice from a sports program or something. It drove home just how far away Oishi-san really was.
今、レナが来ました。
遊びに来たんですか？
I wasn't confident that I could coherently explain the situation to Oishi-san. But I didn't need to right now. Right now, I needed to know about Rena. That's right. I was planning to ask Oishi-san more about Rena, but Rena's little visit had interrupted the conversation. What was true and what was false, I couldn't tell. And the one thing I knew was a single grim reality that Rena was suspicious. I'm able to figure something out if I asked Oishi-san about her. But now, I regretted it whenever I forced myself to ask about things that I was better off not knowing. But looking at it that way, you could say I'd hit rock bottom. There was no possible way I could feel any more regret than I did right now. No, rather, I wanted to know if there was anything beyond this I would regret more. Forget about tomorrow. It was not the realm of possibility for something to happen tonight. I wanted to know everything I could. I was absolutely not going to die like this. Not without knowing anything. I definitely won't. Alright, well, can you tell us something, Oishi-san?
竜宮レナさんのことですか？
Yes.
調べましたよ。まあ簡単には。
I understood that Oishi-san was talking in circles. A bit meant I dug so deep it'd be hard to discuss with you since you're her friend.
その簡単な全てを知りたいんです。
あなたが聞いて面白いような話はありませんよ。
大石さん。
I spoke as calmly as possible to Oishi-san, who was continuing to avoid the issue. And then I said it.
竜宮レナは怪しいと思っています。過去の事件がたとえお社様のたたりによるものだったにせよ、竜宮レナは関わっています。
レナさんが怪しいと思える具体的な証拠があるのですか？
The manner in which Oishi-san spoke became very firm. Do you have some sort of proof? That was him talking as a detective.
状況証拠だけです。
そうですか。
I could tell even over the phone how disappointed Oishi-san was. Pulling on the fishing line when he felt a bite, only to reel in the bait. Disappointed, but ready to cast the line once more. That's how it seemed.
大石さん、目に見える証拠がなければ動けないんですか？
And what I meant was, you can't come and save me without proof. I stuck that barb in there. As Oishi-san loved roundabout ways of saying things, he understood me just fine.
大丈夫ですよ、前原さん。あなたは私が守ります。
That was not the least bit reassuring. Oishi-san was just using me to continue his investigation. And I was just going to get killed, and my corpse would be an important piece of evidence. And that was all I was to him.
大石さんの捜査は俺の生死と無関係でしょうが、俺は死ねば終わりなんです。
Oishi-san went silent on the other end of the line. And that may have been too blunt, but I didn't care. All I needed to relate to Oishi-san was that I was currently in a very dangerous position.
だから話してください、レナのこと。サトシは転校しました。多分俺もそれほど遠くない将来、レナの言う転校をするでしょう。ですが大石さんには俺の死体を見つけることもできないでしょうね。現にサトシの死体だってまだ見つけられてない。
前原さん、どうか落ち着いて。
I was already suppressing my agitation, even without Oishi-san having to tell me. It wouldn't solve anything if I continued to scream about my mistrust and police. It would seem that I could only depend on myself and the bad Satoshi left behind to protect myself. Then, I at least wanted to know about what happened before Rena transferred schools.
つまらない話になるのは覚悟の上ですね。
Oishi-san, realizing my resolve couldn't be swayed, finally caved.
今の俺にとってつまらない話は何一つありません。
Yeah, just test us. Humor us a little bit here.
お願いします。
まずいくつかお断りすることがあります。
はい。
他言無用でお願いします。
Alright.
また内容には一部憶測も含まれているかもしれません。すべてが真実ではないかもしれないということです。よろしいですね。
Alright. Confidential and from your own perspective.
真実ではないかもしれない。言ってる意味がよくわかりません。
南沢の連続開始事件は捜査本部がありません。毎年の事件はここに扱われています。
Yeah, it seems so.
ですから、竜宮レナが捜査線に浮上したことは一度もないのです。つまりですね。
レナの調査は警察としてでなく個人として行ったということですか？
Yeah, basically. Only Oishi did the investigation on Rena.
ご理解いただけて助かります。話のほとんどは電話、もしくは会って聞かせてもらったものばかりです。ですから、裏が取れていません。鵜呑みにしないでほしいということなんですよ。ご理解いただけますね。
Alright.
全部聞いた話だけなんですか？
申し訳ないです。個人調査ですのでね。
あれ、以前レナのカルテを見たって言いませんでしたか？確かにそう聞きましたよ。
Oishi-san paused for a moment on the other end of the line.
そんなことも言いましたかね。気のせいということにしてください。
I didn't care about Oishi-san having certain obligations and responsibilities. I also didn't care if there was no proof. Even if they were just rumors. There's no smoke without fire after all.
話してください、大石さん。
わかりました。
Oishi-san finally opened those tight lips of his. It seemed that Rena lived in Hinamizawa a long time ago. She had moved to Ariakey Prefecture just before starting elementary school. Then, following that, right after transferring, the unfortunate incident with the breaking of the school windows happened. Then, Rena confided to the doctor. It was Oyashiro-sama. This was everything I knew.
私が知る話も前原さんと大きくは変わりません。
では、どこを詳しく調べたんですか？
I didn't need to ask. It was the incident right before she transferred back to Hinamizawa.
レナが起こした事件とその後の医者での告白ですね。
はい。
大石さんはその内容を知っているからこそレナたちを疑っているんですね。
疑っています。
やはりレナたちが犯人。
いえ、疑うとはそういう意味ではないんです。
Oishi-san was the type of person to say things with confidence, but these particular words were less than reassuring.
じゃあ何を疑ってるんですか？
お社様ですよ。お社様のたたりって本当にあるのかな、なんてまあ。
Oishi-san's laugh was quite dry, certainly not the kind that would make you want to join in. Okay. Oishi-san resumed the conversation about the dubious circumstances behind Satoshi's disappearance, and the course of events leading him to delve into Rena's past. Just then, there was thunder in the distance, and a heavy rain started pouring down. Oh boy. It came without warning, a downpour fiercely beating the ground. I left the window in my room open a crack to let the heat out. The violent wind danced into my room, making the curtains flap wildly.
どうしました？
あ、いえ、急にすごい雨が。すみません。どうぞ続けてください。
I got up while still on the phone and grasped the window.
はじめに事件と申し上げましたが、学校側も被害者も告発していないので、正式には事件ではないのです。でですね、この辺りがどうも関係者皆さん口が重いんですよ。被害者の一人は片目に後遺症を残すぐらい殴られているのにもかかわらずです。学校側か、もしくは表沙汰になるのを望まない何者かがいろいろ根回しをしたのかもしれませんね。またカウンセリングを担当した神経科医も職業倫理に厳格な方で。もしもし、前原さん、聞こえてます？
Keiichi? There was the figure of a person standing by the light near the mailbox this whole time. Is Rena still there? Even in this torrential rain, they didn't have an umbrella. They were unquestionably drenched from head to toe, in this shower which more resembled a waterfall. Droplets of water dripped down from her hair. Oh God. Rena. And just standing there, both arms dangling at her side. In one hand was a stack of boxes wrapped in cloth. Her eyes focused on my room, focused on me as I was about to close the window. Her mouth was methodically repeating a chewing motion. It was as if she had something hard to chew in her mouth, with her cheeks puffing out. Could she be eating over there? She eating? How could it be that at this time I was more enthralled by Rena instead of the shocking developments being brought to light by Oishi-san? If it hadn't started raining, I wouldn't have gone to the window. And I wouldn't have noticed Rena, nor would I have noticed that. Rena's mouth was moving in the same pattern. She wasn't eating something. She was repeating something. What was it? Was she repeating to me? What was she saying? Why was I right up against the window, fixated on her?
もしもし、前原さん、聞こえてますか？もしもーし。
ごめんなさい。
え、前原さん？
ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。
She keeps repeating that over and over.
もしもし？
With her fingers still bloody there as well. She keeps repeating, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. She keeps apologizing.
前原さん、どうしましたか？
Even in this torrential downpour, Rena was still apologizing. Ah, you poor thing. Like apologizing like this, like in the rain. You gotta be kidding me. Yet a self inside me drew the curtain hastily with my right hand, blocking my view of the outside. But even doing that, Rena's relentless apologies still reached my ears. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If I forgive you for this, will you forgive me for that? Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. I'm sorry. 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 Damn it. Why should I have to forgive her? I'm the one who wants to be forgiven. What part of me can't you forgive? I won't be killed. If you won't forgive me, then I won't forgive you either. I won't forgive. I won't forgive. Won't forgive. Won't forgive. Won't forgive. Won't forgive. Won't forgive. I won't forgive.
前原さん、聞こえてるなら返事をしてください。もしもーし。